We're live. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in to Live Into the Work with me, Myisha Hill, the not the co-founder, founder of Check Your Privilege, one of the collective educators. I am grateful to be here with you guys today with Kelli Mason, who is the founder of Ripple Reads and partner at Notley, an impact investment organization where she focuses on creating and supporting innovative ideas to advance racial justice. Kelli previously led people operations at two startups, ran a national workplace inclusion consulting firm, and practiced corporate law. Oh my girl, you are amazing. She is a graduate of Rice University, cum laude, and Stanford Law School. Kelli, you are badass, and you currently live in Austin, Texas with your husband and two young children. Welcome, Kelli.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Kelli, we were talking actually just briefly about Ripple Reads, which we'll talk more about here in a second, but your organization, Notley. So for folks who don't know much about Notley, can you explain to them a little bit about your organization?
Yeah, sure. So Notley was founded in 2015 by Dan Graham. He was a successful tech entrepreneur, and after he had an exit with his company, wanted to see how can you bring this entrepreneurial thinking to the social impact space. And so with that in mind, we have a for-profit side that invests in venture capital, in real estate, in different financial investments. And then uses a lot of those returns on those investments to power the nonprofit initiatives that we work on. So it's a nice symbiotic relationship between doing well and doing good.
That's so awesome. And I'll talk to you more about your role at Notley, but one of the nonprofits is Ripple Reads, right? Yes. And what was the inspiration behind Ripple Reads?
Yeah. So another thing about Notley is we're based in Austin. We're considered, and this isn't just bragging, but we're considered, like a trusted resource in the social impact space here in Austin. Mm-hmm. And so we had a few things that we were doing around racial justice, obviously before the summer, but when George Floyd's murder hit, Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, right, this national global racial reckoning hit, there were a lot of people who were coming to us to say, okay, I know, where to donate and what to do in my personal life. How do I talk to my kids about this? Now there's, Black Lives Matter signs around the neighborhood. What do I tell my kids when they ask what that means? Whether their kids are Black or white or whatever ethnicity or background their kids come from. And so we started brainstorming, how can we help parents have that conversation? And really got excited by the idea of, we do so much work at Notley in, supporting racial justice nonprofits and helping companies diversify their workforce. We're like, could we start young? And then in 20 years, we're not going to have to deal with the racist adult.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome. And I think that's so important. A lot of folks talk about having a social impact business model, and Notley is definitely kind of leading the way in the way you guys are doing work, starting from the youngest, right? Mm-hmm. All the way to the thorough line of investing in Black and brown organizations that need financial support and stability. That's amazing. So Ripple Reads, you guys, it used to be kind of a paid service and you've transitioned to a free newsletter for families, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we were, going to do the whole experience, snail mail every other month. You're going to get a book in the mail and a magazine and some goodies. And we did that for a few months and had about 150 or so paying subscribers. But it was about $24.95 each issue. And we were losing money. So it was we're only impacting 150 families. There are 150 families who can afford $24.95 a month, and then losing money in order to do it. So as we're going into 2021 strategic planning, we're thinking, how can we be more effective in reaching more families? And so we'll include the link to the book if people do want to buy the actual book, but then we'll also include all of the activities, all the content for free so that people can access that content.
That's great. So it's accessible. There is no cost. You can just get started.
Yeah.
And how often does the newsletter go out?
So it's going to go out every month. We just sent our update to paying subscribers yesterday, letting them know about the change. And we'll start with our first official newsletter in February.
That's exciting. So folks, if you guys are watching, make sure that you click the link that we added in the comments and subscribe now so that you can be the first in February. Let me do it too right now, so that we can all get this activity. And if you're a member of our Co-Conspirators Lounge, Kelli, we would actually love to even have a group that utilizes Ripple Reads, like as a conversation starter for our community. Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. It's a great family book club. We did a few book club kind of sessions with Girl Scouts of Central Texas, and it's fun to just get the kids talking and the family and parents talking. So yeah, I'd love to be involved with that.
Great. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll stay in touch and we'll get this working offline. But I'm also fascinated about your story, Kelli, which was kind of the inspiration behind Ripple Reads. Just kind of reading about your life growing up with a Black mother and a white father. You say the topic of race very rarely came up.
Yeah.
Growing up, so you felt the difference, but you never really talked about it. Is that what I'm picking up?
Yes, and I definitely felt the difference. In elementary school, for example, we were one of the few Black families in our neighborhood. It was a predominantly white neighborhood. And I knew that me and my sister were different. But my parents, and, I think this was a very common idea that parents had in the 80s and 90s was, let's be colorblind.
Mm-hmm.
And that race, let's say that race doesn't matter. Let's tell our kids they can be anything they want to be and your skin color doesn't matter. And it's like, yes, I get the intent, but the truth is your skin color does matter. It still does. And so we partner with these two professors at University of Texas who specifically research how do you talk to kids about race, to say what's a more meaningful way, right? Instead of this like very nice, fluffy, we don't see race here. How can you get real and honest and still age appropriate? And make a difference that way. Oh, wait, I lost you. I can't hear you.
So it's almost taking the pain from your story and kind of using your story with some researchers who specialize in race to kind of build on a new generation.
Yes, yeah, because I internalized it. And my parents are kind of embarrassed that I share this, but like I would go to my dad's side of the family and they lived in white suburbs in New Jersey and very lush and, everyone's upper middle class or whatever it is. And then I'd go to my mom's family in a very poor neighborhood in Philadelphia. And Black people, it's a lot of poverty, a lot of struggle. And to me, I started thinking, well, it kind of that like anyone can pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Why are these people being lazy or why are these people working harder? And internalize this message that I finally took till I got to college to say like, oh, wait, there are systemic issues in place that exist today, right? I mean, 2021, you see what's happening.
We're still having the same conversations. Absolutely.
So helping kids understand that it is systemic. This isn't about personal shortcomings or personal whatever.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You mentioned like those of us, probably around the same age, 80s and 90s, our parents gave us this colorblind rhetoric because it was the right thing to do. Many of us ended up going to white schools, and I don't know about you, Kelli, but I have an experience where I actually disassociated myself from slavery, where I saw it in the history book and I'm outing myself and I was like, oh, I feel sorry for those people, like not recognizing that they're my people.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that experience, like growing up?
Yes, I had the weirdest experience when I learned about slavery because I was like, am I the oppressor or the oppressed? Like, what does it mean to like, be white and Black and have these like, experiences? It was a very weird grappling with that introduction. And in fact, the professors that we work with on this content, it's Dr. Kefferlin Brown and Dr. Anthony Brown. They're based at University of Texas. They just rolled out, maybe last year, this great curriculum to help teachers in Texas in particular talk about slavery in a way that is age appropriate, that is meaningful, that is going to be impactful and not create this weird dynamic that kids of all races have when you start to talk about slavery in particular.
Wow. And your researchers, which is exciting, they're African American.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's really it feels like it's going to be a good experience to have enslavement or slavery. If, for those of you who are watching, talk about it from the lens of Blackness.
Yeah. And their parents too.
And their parents. That's the best part.
Yeah. They've got an interesting story about talking to other Black parents who are like, we don't want to tell our kids about this. And, there's things Black parents have to talk to your kids about at some point, right? You got to talk about how to deal with the police, how to, what to expect in certain situations.
Absolutely.
You don't necessarily have to talk about slavery or segregation. You can kind of sweep that under the rug. But in their research, they're like, no, we have to talk to our kids about this. They're going to find out. It's going to come from a teacher saying something off the wall. It's going to come from a classmate saying something off the wall.
Yep.
You might as well be the one as the parent to have that conversation.
Absolutely. And this is great, Kelli, because that's the question that we always get asked is, well, how do I talk to my kids about race? What do I do? And now this is a very tangible way that's backed in your life experience and research, led from the lens of Blackness, which that excites me a lot, to really give our kids, Black and white and red and yellow and green. Why am I singing that song? Did you have to sing that song? That was very random.
Reverting back to your 90s colorblind.
I think I'm reverting back to 90s Christianity. Jesus loves all the little children of the world, red and yellow, black and white. Yeah. This is fun though. Off the cuff, guys, but this is great, Kelli. I'm really excited to share more of this with the community. And those that if you're watching this, please sign up for the subscription. And if you guys have questions for Kelli, you guys can also put those in the chat. But Kelli, I want to move more into your role at Notley. You are the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That's a lot. What brings you life, working in that role in an organization like Notley?
Yeah, well, I also have to toot my own horn. I got promoted to partner, so I'm a partner now.
Oh, never mind, you're a partner now.
But I think I got the partner role because my role as head of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I really looked at all the different things that Notley is doing in the community, from the nonprofits that we're working on, right? We do stuff with women's entrepreneurship, and we were seeing that it was a lot of white women who were benefiting from these programs. And so I started working with the program owner for that and saying, how can we get more women of color involved, and digging into that. We do real estate development on the east side of Austin, which is very, it gets into issues of gentrification and who's financially benefiting from these opportunities. Mm-hmm. So I had conversations with the person who owns that initiative, and really digging into all of these different parts of the Notley ecosystem. Where are we bringing racial justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion to bear, and are we being mindful of it? And I think from having those conversations and providing actual, tangible, practical advice, they promoted me to partner.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is, so being promoted to partner, did someone fulfill your previous role?
No, I think it was a recognition that my role isn't just, and I think this is, when I talk to companies, it shouldn't be siloed. When you're thinking about equity and inclusion, it shouldn't just be one person's role and one person's responsible for it. It's how can we create infrastructure where this permeates the whole company, this permeates the whole ecosystem. Mm-hmm. It should be the CEO's role. It should be the CMO's role. It should be everyone's role. And so no one backfilled my role. It's really just a recognition that it's not a siloed role. This is, something that we're going to do in every Notley initiative.
That is powerful. And is that something that your organization, Notley, teaches other organizations?
Yeah, so we have another program called Notley Tide, and we work with, I think we've got maybe 12 or 13 corporate partners who we provide everything from employer branding consultations, how can they make their employer brand more inclusive, more accessible, through to recruiting and inclusive hiring practices. So we've got this great self-serve course for recruiters to help them build more inclusive interviewing practices, through workshops for the employees to talk about unconscious bias, talk about making meetings more inclusive. So we have a whole arm through Notley Tide of how we're helping companies deal with these issues.
That is amazing. Geez, Notley is like the one-stop shop.
I told you. fighting on all angles.
I'm coming to work for you guys. No.
Good.
No. This is really exciting to see an organization not silo the role of DE&I and really be a resource, like really try to educate other companies. And like, I think I have goosebumps because it's like, this is a dream organization. This is something that I talk to friends about and they're like, wouldn't it be great? Alicia's saying that it feels forced. Is it forced?
No, I think everyone, and I'm assuming what she means is feels forced, like we're like trying to like put DEI on everything. But when I joined, I mean, first off, they created this role. It's a 50-person company. Not every 50-person company is even going to create the role to begin with.
Right.
But then once I joined, it was everyone's like, how, like they were thirsty for knowledge, thirsty for understanding, and really soaked up my advice, implemented it as soon as possible. So it's really not, it's just a collection of people who just happen to be genuinely interested. And, you know, whether they were doing the work before or not, they were ready and excited to do the work. And now they definitely are.
Got it. Alicia, you're asking D&I reform is needed, feelings. When you say reform, Alicia, can you put a couple of examples in the chat for us? We'll pause and wait. I think that's what we forget is that it takes a collective of individuals to actually make systemic change.
Yeah.
And with the organization, having a smaller organization, it's you're able to do that, right? You're able to kind of build this like new way, this new system together.
Yeah, it's really important for anyone who's at a company or a decision maker in a company. You've got to start early. I read something like Google, for them to reach the representation numbers they need to reach, given how big they are, they need to have 3,000 Black people or something, and like they don't even, right? Like once you get to that scale, it gets further and further out of reach. So it is important to start early in your company.
That's a big number. You said Google would have to hire 3,000 more Black folks to
reach this. I mean, and this was probably 5 years ago, but it was to reach demographic diversity. So if we've got 12% Black people in America and you have 12% Black people in your company, so that you're reflecting the country that you work in, that's how many more people they needed to add in order to get there. And I think at that time they had like 1,000 jobs they were hiring every year. So it's like, okay, for the next 3 years, you need to fill 100% of your positions. Like, it's just not going to happen.
No, I got it. Yeah, it's not. That's not sustainable, and that's not a reality.
Yeah, but if you start early, then you know it's that much easier to get on the right path and be intentional about it.
Absolutely. Okay, Alicia came back. She said DE&I is implemented by a few to cover their systemic bias.
Yes, I mean 100%. There are still I have colleagues in this space where they're like, I was given this title and this, you know, chief level whatever and salary because this company needs to do that publicly, but they're not actually being empowered to to make the changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are definitely, I won't say especially where, but there are definitely companies where they were like, oh, Black Lives Matter, let's hire someone Black to lead our D&I program, right? And they're not actually making any change.
With no intention to support the persons and their ideas, right?
Yeah.
It's just to fulfill a role and a quota because it's a business strategy, Alicia, to your point.
It's a PR move. It's you know, let's just slap on this title and pretend that everything's better now. Doing the hard work, because it, especially at a bigger company, it is harder. There's a lot more ingrained, institutionalized issues that you have to shake up and change, and then people don't like change. But
not at all.
Just hiring a chief diversity officer is not going to change your company.
Not at all. You know, there's a lot. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this in like for workshops, Kelli. Organizations want you to do it a certain way. Like they want to read the script. They want to pick and choose what you say and what you can't say. And there comes a point where you're either going to accept, we're going to say white supremacy in the workshop, or we can just cancel the contract.
Yeah. I had one where like the chief marketing officer wanted to get on the phone with me before the workshop. And I was like, what do you have to do with this?
Right. Exactly.
It turned out good. She wanted to like bring the values in. But yeah, there's definitely some companies that, they want the gold star. They want to say, I did I hit my quota. We had our workshop, we had our brown bag lunch, and now we're all good, right? We can do it again next year.
Right. It's trying to convince, especially in the tech world, but trying to convince these large tech companies that this is more than a one-day workshop. It's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Or you get the executives, well, I can go to LinkedIn Learning and watch a 15-minute workshop. And you're just like, that's not the same, but okay.
Yeah. With our workshop, we have an inclusive hiring, kind of like self-serve, similar to that. I mean, it's not 15 minutes. I think it takes people like 8 hours to complete. But there's also activities. It's like, here's your homework. You need to go look at your job descriptions and see what words you have in them. You need to go to find out who's in charge of your careers page and figure out why all the pictures look this way, right? So there's homework and there's actual, it's not just let's learn, it's let's learn and then let's take action.
That's what it's about. And Kelli, I just want to say thank you for being among the leaders in the space that are actually moving organizations in the right direction.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. I love your platform, and I love that you're just reaching people with honesty.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I try to do. Straight, no chaser. Oh, wait, that's Diane, not me. But that's what we have to do. I think we have to reveal what's happening in the world in a truthful way, right? Or this just keeps happening. So thank you so much, Kelli. And thank you for everything you stand for in the way and you show up in the world.
Awesome. Of course. Thank you.
You're welcome. So if you guys want to know more about Notley Tide, or Ripple Reads, all of those links are in the comments. Kelli, if someone's inspired by you and wants to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, you can email me. I'm Kelli, Kelli, @wearenotley.com. I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, Kelli Mason, Kelli. Yeah, I'm not, I have a little social media if you want to see my children. But really, it's LinkedIn if you want to connect professionally and stay up to date with the things I'm working on.
Awesome. Well, you guys heard it first. You can hang out or reach out to Kelli over on LinkedIn. And we added her email to the chat, Kelli@wearenotley.com. Kelli, thanks for spending 20 minutes with us and educating our community.
Yeah, of course. Happy to. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we'll see you guys next week where we live into the work with other amazing individuals who are leading the cause for justice. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Kelli.